Welcome to the Stop Doing Stupid Stuff podcast, where hosts Tim Keefe from SDSS Global and Andreas Wieman tackle the most pressing challenges facing business leaders today. In this episode, our co-conspirators dive deep into the practical applications of artificial intelligence in the workplace, moving beyond the hype to examine real-world implementation strategies that actually deliver measurable results. Today's discussion centers around Chirag Bhardwaj's insightful article, How is AI Transforming Employee Experience and Boosting Engagement and Productivity?, published on AppInventive. Tim and Andreas explore the critical disconnect between AI promises and actual outcomes, particularly in HR and employee engagement. From the importance of personalized onboarding experiences to the strategic use of small language models for company-specific applications, they challenge listeners to focus on outcomes rather than box checking when it comes to AI adoption. Join them as they break down why starting with your people, not just technology, is the key to successful AI transformation. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody. This is Tim Keefe with SDSS Global and my co-conspirator, Andreas Wieman, here to try and stumble through another podcast. Actually, not stumble at all. We're very excited about today's article. And Mr. Andreas, sir, what are we teeing up for today's amazing conversation?
Yeah, I think we got a good topical conversation that we've been talking about in different veins and iterations. And I think the author of this one, the title is How is AI Transforming Employee Experience and Boosting Engagement and Productivity? All very topical questions for pretty much any leader, no matter where you sit in the world right now. So I think it's going to be a good conversation here. The article is by Chirag, and we'll link to the website of the I can't say it right, AppInventive, where the article is hosted there. It's a really good article because it gives you framing and suggestions on how you should be thinking about employee engagement with the product, the outcome being boosting engagement and thus productivity as well. So really well constructed article by Chirag here.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good too, and kind of interesting in that, we're getting to that point where everybody's like, okay, so when are we going to see the practical application of, AI, the promise? We've heard a lot about agentic AI and the use of that to manage customer interactions, although I really haven't seen a lot on the cost associated with it. It's still people are putting out programs. This is what we can save in terms of automation or improved lookup or efficiency gains. But I still haven't seen anything which says this is what it costs to actually implement and how long it takes to implement. But, with that, go ahead.
I mean, I would say just not even the cost. This is the one that, and you and I talk about this pretty extensively, either in podcasts or mainly off of podcasts, so that way we don't have to edit out the profanities when we have just regular conversations. But it's not just the cost of what people are spending on AI. What are you getting back? Why are you not reporting? If you got 200 plus AI, and I'm doing my air finger quotes here, AI programs in pilot or whatever, why are you not reporting that back if you're a publicly traded company as a line item, like we've talked about, of saying, oh yeah, hey, our AI driven projects, they've resulted in an X percentage of increase in retention in our staffing. And thus we've been able to reduce our recruiting costs, our training costs, our non-productive time costs, our ratio costs, et cetera. No one is talking about that. All it is super high level, oh, AI is game changer. Game changer. Yeah, we're spending, $50 gazillion on AI initiatives. You should be really excited about that and do business with us because of that. It's I don't know. To me, it's just the cleanest word I can say right now is just illogical.
And I think that the part of the problem is everybody wants to see the benefit, I guess, is the way I look at it. They're kind of like chasing the use case, but not really able to deliver on it, or at least that's my feeling, right? I feel that we see these conversations. I mean, the big one a year ago was Klarna, right? 700 customer experience people laid off because AI could do it better. Oh, wait a minute, 6 months later, we bring those people back on again. And in here, we're talking about the HR side of the house, which is this opportunity for AI tools to be creating a more personalized experience for an employee. And is that happening? I mean, I see the use case. I think it's incredibly needed. We hear a lot about how bad onboarding is and a lot of challenges that companies have, and they don't have the people anymore to do this, right? Because HR staff are expensive and maybe viewed not so much as, profit centers.
Well, no, I think that's a valid point. Look at your span of control, your ratio spans, SPOCs that we call them, right? How many HR people are directly there, in the more traditional versus the more traditional models where you had a lower ratio of HR professionals there to augment and kind of pair with the production line managers, supervisors, et cetera. And so now there was this huge reversion to up and up cost savings, right? It's all about cost savings. And then maybe you see some sort of margin improvement or yield improvement in the interim, but you never adjust to the changing times. And I think that's kind of where we're at this inflection point where so many moves were made and there were gains made, but they were never adjusted or normalized to conform with modern problems and modern variables that they're solving for. So now people are starting to realize, okay, maybe AI isn't as as there as we thought it was there. In HR, now we have a hard time people quitting and being productive. So HR, now we need you guys to solve world hunger, solve all the problems that we're having right now. You're HR, you're the ones that should be able to do it. Or let's give you a fancy name, human capital instead of human resources, because I don't know, maybe some people have a problem with that. That'll change it, and we'll have better shrinkage and better productivity if we do that. Like seriously, that's the asinine like
Uh,
solutioning that people are coming up with, rather than just saying, "Hey, why don't we personalize things for our
eh,
employees that we're looking for, like with job descriptions that really match what they're going to be doing?" And then that way, when the people are doing those jobs, they're not like, "Hey, this wasn't in the job description." Let me stick around and figure it out and have this camaraderie because I'm supported by a culture that supports me being successful because the culture, the company, the organization is dependent on the individuals and their collective successes to have the company run. I mean,
yeah.
it's a pretty simple view in my point. Why people aren't doing it that way? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Well, I do have an answer for it, but it's not, it'll get us banned off of Spotify, so I'm not going to share that.
Well, but your point, I mean, is kind of really well taken when you think about how, we talk about, oh, we want to drive engagement. Okay, well, it starts on day one. New employee comes on board. Do they have what they need to be successful? And what we're hearing over and over again is right off the bat, right at that very first interaction with an employee, we're getting it wrong, right? The job description maybe doesn't exactly line up with the work that's being expected of them. Oh, so that's a disconnect. Ooh, did they get the tools they need to, to do their job? Oh, there's a backlog on laptops or whatever it might be. Did they get a chance to meet with their supervisor? Have they had a briefing yet? And the answer is on a lot of this stuff, maybe not, right? Because the manager is got too much on his plate or their plate to spend that kind of time with the new employee. They're running around putting out fires.
Yeah. No, and if you think about it, again, we have our tagline of say hi to AI. And what we mean by say hi to AI is human intelligence with artificial intelligence. How do you enable artificial intelligence to help the people? In every article we read and every use case we listen to, right, or earnings call from some completely disconnected CEO or whoever, that's talking on there, it's all about, oh yeah, we're not gonna need people. AI is gonna do it all. They don't understand the vast complication of arriving at that conclusion, like how all that happens, right? And so that's another podcast for another time. But instead of saying that or having that view, I think we have HR partners that we work with, that we partner with, and they're saying, yeah, we got a lot on our plates right now because now we're having to solve for these problems, and it's still focused on the people. So if you revert back to the customer sentiment, like in typical sales model, you want to get personalization. Like you couldn't, browse through any website without seeing some sort of personalization for your customers and this and that,
Hmm.
because there was validity there because the results came, so everybody bought into that hype cycle because they saw the evidence. why not have that same kind of view as a starting point? Have the same view with your employees, have a personalization view and augment that with AI. There's tools that obviously that we have, I'm not going to go extensively down this rabbit hole of balance-wise IQ and scorecard IQ, qualitative and quantitative AI tools that allow you to personalize, no matter how big your organization is, personalize it down to an individual. I mean, we just had a meeting with the CEO of a organization over 10,000 people, and we were able to demonstrate, how we could see the entire organization. Less than what 2 clicks, we were able to get down to a singular person that was a part of the aggregate of the entire organization. It was pretty impressive. And so it's still looking at it from a human logical perspective and what fits into your strategy, but augmenting you with AI driven data insights that says, hey, this is a problem. And now you got to say, well, what do I do about it? And that's again where I think they're going to have a proliferation of AI once small language model building comes in. This is kind of the key to the whole personalization thing. And you and I have talked about this. Small language models, that's where you're going to be able to say, okay, per our company policy, per our company standard operating procedure and guidelines, here's what you should do. That's the evolution that I see, the next AI outcomes-based AI, agentic AI proliferation is once you figure out that small language model building, companies are really going to take off. You're still going to need the framework underneath that, like, which is why we're so passionate about balance-wise IQ and scorecard IQ, because that's going to be the foundation building. And then you hygienize all of the other data points around, like I said before, the company standard operating procedures, employee handbooks, all of the guidelines that you still put together. How do you get that in, make sure it's maintained and accurate and up to date, and then have your models trained off of that rather than a large language model that's everything and some of the nonsense that we've seen in it trying to rationalize all of the nonsense with the non-nonsense, right? With the sensical data, and then produce something that's viable and actionable for you to have. So that was a long-winded spiel there. So my apologies, one to Tim. He's used to it by now, but the audience too. But the whole point is, where do you start? It's a big, complicated world, but where do you start? My advice is start with your people and have your AI plan figure out how do you help your people? How do you help your HR people? Your HR people right now, your company depends on their success because their success is going to be dependent on all of the groups that they interact with. And ratios for mid managers and frontline managers are really, really high right now because of the comments that Tim made earlier. So how do they cohesively or symbiotically all help each other all at once in parallel so you can see the results a little bit sooner?
Right. Right.
Start with the personalization is my advice.
I agree. And I think you start with just like you would if you had a human being as a supervisor on a team, like what are the tools that you give them to be effective? Usually first on the list is the employee handbook, if there is one, right? And that should guide most of the legal areas within human resources, right? Things like termination, performance improvement programs, et cetera, should all be well documented in what's accepted and what the process is to handle those. I think then the next step is, okay, then what are our quote unquote wellness benefits that we may have or health benefits that we have as a company that we can make available to our employees from a wellness perspective? And again, that may be self-choice or it may be guided. It could be any number of ways to get there. But again, the point is that we want to make sure that we're giving our employees what they need to be successful. That gets back to the personalization, which is the agentic AI. I agree with all of that, but it's got to have real content to be valuable. If it's just, hey, go to the large language model and look up best ways to support mental health for a struggling new supervisor. um, Good luck with that. You may actually get a good answer. I don't know, but
Well, you're
you
rolling the
may.
dice is your point. You're rolling the dice when you do that.
You are absolutely rolling the dice to do that. And you may be creating legal obligations for your company without even realizing it. So again, we're a big proponent on the small language model approach in that you can define and put the guardrails around what content you're going to play with when it comes to these very risky areas of labor law. So I think that's just a kind of good way to put it. I like the article. I like what they're saying. I like that it's all about personalization. I mean, a million years ago when Don Peppers came out with one-to-one marketing, same kind of thing. It's like everybody's different. And same thing true with the people in the workforce. Everybody's different, but pay attention. And as a leader, are you focused on the outcomes or are you focused on box checking?
Yep. I like that. We should like trademark that. Are you focused on the outcomes or the box checking?
Yeah.
I
Maybe
like it.
next go around, next time we trademark something, we'll do that.
I like
All
it.
right.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, we'll link to the article by Chirag in the AppInventive there. It's really, really good. If you read the article, there's specificity around retention, recruitment, recruitment, onboarding, performance, and retention, just like Tim was talking about there. Great starting place to think about how do you personalize your approach to your employees and then measure the outcomes from it. See if your attrition improves, your retention improves, your productivity improves. It's a great starting place. So props
Agreed.
to Chirag on that.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And thanks again for everything. All right. Thanks everybody for attending, and please subscribe if you have a moment. And with that, we'll say adios.
All right. See you, everybody.